Good evening. This is a meeting of the Athens Board of Zoning Appeals. The time is 7:01 p.m. and the date is May 8, 2018. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. The board consists of 5 members and 2 alternates, the alternates taking full part in the discussions and becoming a voting member in the absence of a member or when a member abstains for conflict of interest. Present tonight are the members, Ms. Lisa Carson, Mr. John Goodekins, Ms. Cale Towsley, and the alternates are Mr. Aaron Thomas and Ms. Jessica Koplowitz, who will be a voting member tonight in the absence of Mr. Ed Baum. I am John Golsey, the chair. Also present is Mr. Paul Eschenbacher, the secretary. At this time, I invite you to view a pre-recorded video on the rules and procedures of the board.
The Athens Board of Zoning Appeals operates according to the following procedure. The chair will name and describe the case. The zoning administrator or secretary will state the basis of the objection and any applicable facts or conditions pertaining to the case. The appellant or their representative will give reason why the appeal should be viewed favorably. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in general comment will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be heard. If necessary, the appellant or their representative will offer concluding, summary, or rebuttal remarks. Testimony from the floor shall be closed. The board will deliberate and render a decision. According to Athens City Code, Section 23.07.03b, the board has power to grant variances from the strict application of the code, provided the variance will not be contrary to the public interest, the spirit of the code is observed, public safety and welfare are secured, and substantial justice is done. According to Athens City Code, Section 23.07.10c, variances from the code shall not be granted unless the board makes specific findings of fact based directly on the particular evidence presented to it, that the standards and conditions imposed in this title, if applicable, have been met by the applicant. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. Practical difficulty and undue hardship. Because of exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property, a literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone and the same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and the same vicinity. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. Not of a general nature. The condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of said property for which variance is sought, one or the other or in combination, is not of so general or recurrent a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. Any person, resident, or officer, department, or appointed body of the City of Athens, aggrieved by a decision of the board, may petition the Athens County Court of Common Pleas concerning the illegality of the decision. Such petition must be filed within 30 days after the mailing of the decision of the board to the applicant. Thank you.
There are 2 cases on the agenda tonight. The first case that will be heard would be the property at 235 Columbus Road. And the second case would be the property at 285 East State Street. The board is required to take testimony under oath. Would anyone wishing to speak concerning any items on the agenda please stand? Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you will present to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Be seated, please. Case number 1 is case 18-11V, the property at 235 Columbus Road. Zone is B3. And the appellant is Ms. Christy Goldsberry at 2K Gold Ltd. Appellant is requesting a variance from ACC 230313I2D to allow a directional sign 24 square feet in area where 3 square feet is the maximum allowance, and 7 feet in height where 3 feet in height is the maximum allowance. This case was tabled from last month, and Mr. Eschenbacher, anything else that you'd like to add?
No, unless the board has any questions.
No, okay. Any questions for? Do we have a motion to untable the case?
I move to untable the case.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favoring of untabling? I did this for Mr. Bond because he catches you on these things. Okay, would you like to come to the board and to the podium, state your name and address and your case?
My name is Christy Goldsberry, owner of City Limits, in the well, it's known as City Limits, gas station and convenience store and drive-through, and but our legal name is 2K Gold. And I live at 197 Longview Heights, Athens, Ohio. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for and apologize for not being able to come last month. Unfortunately, it was something that couldn't be helped, but and didn't turn out the way I wanted to. So the only thing that I can really state about this, I think I've outlined in my arguments here of why I think that this is an unusual situation and deserves to have a variance. You know, the fact that the directional sign is located 200 feet away from the right-of-way and doesn't really impact any neighboring properties, I think is really a key thing. Also, our right-of-way is rather large. It's not of a typical nature to have a right-of-way that deep. Columbus Road has a huge right-of-way. I mean, if you compare it to other main arteries in the city of Athens, the right-of-way is not near as big, especially for the level of traffic that we receive. The sign, when you look at what is allowed and what we are asking for, it does seem like a huge difference, even though it's, when you look at the sign from the picture that I provided from the right-of-way, I do believe that it has minimal impact on any neighbors or a site deficiency that would affect anyone else. I think the intent of the law, or of this particular, what do I want to say, specification for a directional sign, the intent was to prevent people from having huge signs that block other people's views, that are unsightly, that are, you know, in the way of things. This is a sign that is back away from everything and doesn't really impact negatively, I don't feel, of anything of that type. So I think that this is a variance that should be granted because it is contrary to a normal situation. That's really all I have to say. I mean, I think my arguments pretty much say it.
Okay, this sign is not going to be lighted or anything, it's just going to be a
No.
regular sign, okay. And I think if you're driving on Columbus Road, you wouldn't really see it unless you turn into the property, right?
Yeah, the
Okay.
point of the sign is to get people to go
To the
straight back and turn left.
Yeah.
And so that's, you wouldn't see it unless you would, you know that there's a drive-through because there's a big sign on the roof.
Right.
But getting to the drive-through is what we're trying to make sure that the traffic goes correctly so that we don't have any unnecessary accidents.
Okay. Any questions for the appellant? Well, you stated the special circumstances very well for us, so that makes it
Okay.
easier. You may be
Great.
seated.
Okay, thanks.
Is there anyone who would like to speak on behalf of this variance in general commentary or in opposition? Okay, we're going to close the discussions from the floor. And should we start with the motion?
I'll make a motion
Go ahead.
to approve.
You need
Did I
to-
read through the case?
Yeah, read from the pretty much the agenda.
So the appellant is requesting a variance from ACC 23.03.13I2D to allow a directional sign 24 square feet in area where 3 square feet is the maximum allowance, and 7 feet in height where 3 feet in height is the maximum allowance.
And you make a motion to that, right?
So I'll make a
Okay.
motion to
Yeah,
approve.
we just want to make sure that all the wording is correct so we won't
Sure.
get in trouble. And there was also a statement that is a standard statement we read. Any seconds?
I'll second.
Okay, Kay, second. And any discussions before I go through the findings? If I can find the findings. Exceptional circumstances, I guess she pretty much has stated the situation of the land and being sitting in the back. Anybody else wants to add any more? Okay, and practical difficulty would be as the result of that exceptional circumstances for visibility and directing people to where they need to go.
Yep,
Agree?
wouldn't be able to see it otherwise.
Right. Preservation of equal property rights. I think anybody under the same circumstances probably would be justified to have this sign. Is this minimum variance? Going from 3 square feet to 24 square feet may not sound like a minimum, but 3 is too small for that location. Absence of detriment. You guys can say something too.
No.
And not of a general nature.
No, it's not.
Okay. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor of granting the variance, please raise your hand. We got 5-0. You got, he doesn't vote.
I'm alternate tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it, and I do appreciate you guys tabling it last time. Sorry you had to.
No problem, no problem.
We like to hang out anyway.
We had a keg here last night.
Okay, let's go to case number 2. The property is at 285 East State Street, Zone R1, is the case 18-12V. And Mr. Michael Freyden is the appellant. The appellant is requesting a variance from ACC 2310, Table A, a schedule of bulk controls to allow construction of a deck on the rear of a building with a front setback of 19 feet where 25 feet is the minimum requirement. I didn't get a chance to go to see the property. Is the deck already back there, or
They can, yeah,
Okay,
they can
okay.
address that.
anything else you would like to add? No?
No.
Okay.
Again, if you have any questions.
Would the appellant would come to the podium and state your name again and also your address for the record?
Yes, Michael Fraden, 285 East State Street.
Okay, you can state your
Okay,
case.
sure.
Why do you want a deck back there?
Well, I have 3 kids, and I think it would be great to have a deck in the back of the house so that there's a door there, and the door right now, there's no deck there. So there was a deck before, but as Bento can speak to, it wasn't constructed safely, so he took it down. So now if you open the back door, you just kind of would fall because there's nothing there. So I would very much would need to have a back deck in order to, it's a shared driveway. So in order to get into the back door and to park in the rear, it would make sense to be able to enter the house through the back door. Right now, I've been parking the front on each state, which is dangerous. I don't like it, parking there with my kids either because there's traffic coming from behind and from every which direction and very quickly. But it makes more sense to park there now because otherwise we'd have to park in a shared driveway and then come to the front, and then there's the potential for cars to come down the driveway while they're coming around from the back of the house to the front of the house. So in order to use my back door, in order to for safety purposes as well, I mean, in case of fire and the like, in order to be able to exit the back door, there needs to be a platform, there needs to be something there, and so a deck seems like the logical solution. And I was quite surprised when it got denied based on the front of the house, because I know those houses were built in the 1900s, and
Yeah.
it seems kind of arbitrary that where the front of the house is. But we're here, and we hope that we can. He's been ready to build the deck for a couple of weeks, and I'm very excited
So,
about
so
it.
without the deck, it's going to be a drop when you get out of your house, right?
Yeah,
It's gonna
without the
be-
deck, you
yeah.
just open the back door and you fall.
Okay, and there is a 19, almost 19 by 12, and then there is a 12 by 12 beyond that. I didn't know what that was. I didn't get a chance to see it today,
Yeah.
but,
Oh, it's not there. It's not the.
Okay,
so
so-
he can speak. That's a design, so he can kind of speak to the details
Oh,
of the
okay.
design.
he's the engineer, huh?
He's the engineer.
He's the architect.
He's wonderful. He's very competent.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to say anything? Did you say you took it down, or you were not the original builder then, right?
Well, there was the original deck over there.
Go to the podium, state your name and your address, please.
My name is Norberto Rosas, and I am a contractor. So the deck, the original deck was over there was 12 by 8. They're really they don't even bolt it on the. They just put screws on the lagger of the house when they did it. The secure for safety, I thought there was enough requirements on that whole deck. So I decided to just take it out. But then I said, well, let's go to the city now and ask. I mean, I used to work more in rental companies here in Athens. I mean, this year I started doing my own business. So
I
that's
only
why.
have one question. If you could come close in here, I want to show you something.
Yes.
Unless you guys know what this is. This is the deck, right?
Well, that's the dimension that he
wants.
wants. Yeah.
And then what is this?
He wants it like down.
Oh,
Step
double
down.
deck. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because without that, you would meet the, well, you still did this front set. Okay, that's what I just wanted to know.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for any of these appellants?
So what was the original deck size?
There was 12 by 8.
It's 12 foot across the back of the house?
12
Okay.
feet,
And out 8.
and 8 out.
Okay.
That'd be 31.
We don't have anyone to go opposing you, I don't think so, so. Unless you want to oppose it again. The size is not good, you have your chance now. All right, we're gonna close the discussions from the floor. And what do you think, guys? You know, I mean, this is like a double deck, and
Is it
since,
anything
since
similar?
since the front setback is only 19, should be what, 25, that's only 6 feet short.
Is anything similar in the area? Similar
Um,
size? I couldn't see it from the street.
In the deck or the house
The
itself?
proposal deck in the
The
house.
deck that's proposed meets all the other bulk controls. I think there's at least a couple of houses, if not on that actual block, but along that stretch of East State Street who also have rear decks of
That size.
decent size, yeah.
Okay.
And there's plenty of
It's-
room back
Yeah,
there.
it is, it's a
Yeah.
long way.
This is about the front setback, right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So it's just because they're wanting to do construction? Yeah, it's,
Yeah,
Right, so
it's just a,
As
I
often
mean,
happens.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
And they don't have any really choice on the front side anyway, it's been built
Right.
already.
It's a big backyard.
yeah.
Okay, let's go over the findings.
Well, Need the motion.
Yes,
I'll do a motion.
okay.
I move that we grant a variance in case 1812V from Athens City Code 2310, Table A, Schedule of Bulk Controls, to allow construction of a deck on the rear of the building with a front setback of 19 feet, where 25 feet is the minimum requirement.
Any seconds?
I second.
John, second. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. You could argue that the deck could be built maybe smaller, but again, because of this long area in the back, 60, almost 90 feet from the exceptional circumstance in here would be basically it's too narrow, too long maybe. And there's nothing that's going to affect the front part of the building.
No.
Anything else anybody wants to add? No?
I think the space is there.
The space
Yeah.
is there, yeah.
Yeah.
And then practical difficulty and undue hardship. Well, definitely there's special circumstances that back door, and you need to have something to get out of the house so you won't fall in there. And so that's would be a hardship for being able to get in and out from the backside, right? Preservation of equal property rights. I think most people like to have a deck in the back.
Plus, there's one there originally. So.
Yeah, there was one in there until he took it down.
It wasn't safe, he
safe,
said.
yeah.
Said it wasn't safe.
You wanted to make it nicer and better. The minimum variance, it is reasonably the right size. Absence of detriment, no, and not of a general nature.
No.
All in favor of this variance, please raise your hand. Again, we have 5-0. You got your variance. And did you guys read the minutes from last month, from April 10, 2018?
Yes.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of April 10, 2018?
I motion to approve the minutes.
And those of you, a second?
A second.
John, second. And those of you who were here present, you may raise your hand if you approve the motion. Okay, we have John. Is there any other business?
Well, one thing I wanted to bring up, I was reading an article about zoning boards. And when it comes to the motions that you guys make, I think all you have to mention is the address. You don't
Okay.
have to mention the case or the zoning or anything.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is someone made a motion where they mentioned all four things: the case number, the zone, the address, and the owner. And it was interpreted by one court that therefore the variance only goes with the owner
Interesting.
of the property at the time. They also mentioned the fact that if in some future thing the zoning should change, that somehow this would negate the variance. So all I was suggesting is if you make motions in the future, just mention the address. It'll make it simpler for everybody.
That's great.
Okay, and who
Thank
could
you.
be the possible appellant? It doesn't have to be the owner, right?
Yeah, whoever, the appellant or the owner, whoever filed the variance request, you don't have to mention them, just the address.
And that would be no interest of any audience, the people the public?
Well, I mean, if they're
I mean,
here,
if-
they should be familiar with the case enough to already know the case number and stuff. If you wanted to make a preference, like in case 1812, the board moves to grant a variance to 285 East State Street or something like that, if you want to make sure that people know what you're talking about.
Okay, that makes our meeting shorter. Okay, we're adjourned.
Great, thank you.